What's up, everybody? I am back. Over the last few years, I've been telling the stories of the cars behind the scenes, and it really helped to grow my channel. Up until now, Universal's only interest in sharing any information about the behind the scenes revolved around the behind the scenes features that they integrated into the DVD releases. They didn't do anything else but those things, and they baked them into the DVDs, and that was pretty much it. And so if you didn't buy the DVD, you didn't get to see those features. And it's too bad, because a lot of those DVD featurettes had a lot of really good information and a lot of good speakers talking about the sequences and so forth. So if you have the DVDs, I suggest you go back and look at them. And I remember working with Universal back in 2001 after the first movie and in 2003 after the second movie, because Universal interviewed me on segments for those DVDs. And while those DVD features were really well done, many people never bought the DVD, and so many people missed out on these interesting stories. And it was kind of a bummer, because probably half of my videos that I've created have the same information in the DVD feature. So finally, after 22 years, everyone can have access to all the behind the scenes stories to all of the Fast and Furious movies. Not just the stuff about the cars or the stunts, but everything that went into making these movies from soup to nuts, from start to finish. That story is coming up right after the break. Today's episode is brought to you by Adams Polishes. Confession, I hate cleaning my own cars. That's why I love Adams Polishes. Whatever you want to clean, polish, or shine, Adams has a specific product just for that, even for matte finishes. Since 2000, Adams Polishes has been offering premium car care products dedicated to the enthusiast. Whether you're a professional detailer or a weekend warrior, their innovative and effective products will enable you to achieve amazing results on your prized possession. Adams, made with pride and passion in the USA. Several months ago, a production company called Nacelle, known for their behind-the-scenes stories of the Star Wars franchise, amongst other things, turned their cameras on the Fast and Furious franchise and started working on a series called Icons Unearthed Fast and Furious Edition. They've already done a Star Wars one, as I just mentioned. And as it was with Universal's behind-the-scenes DVD featurettes, I was asked to give an interview. I happily obliged, of course, because it was quite an honor to do so. I didn't ask for any money to participate. I just wanted to share accurate information, and I felt my contribution could be of value to them. The interview took place in May of 2022, so I drove 60 miles up to Hollywood, California, to the Nacelle Productions office. Ironically, it was right across the street from the studio in which I gave my first interview for Universal's DVD behind-the-scenes featurettes, and I recognized it instantly. I mean, a lot of stuff has changed over there, thousands of homeless people, but that's not going to dissuade me from going inside to the studio. So I was one of the first to be interviewed, and the session lasted about 3 hours or so. I had many stories to tell and many questions to answer, and I knew they weren't going to use all of it, but they'd used a lot of it, as I learned when I started seeing the shows. During the session, I learned that Chad Lindberger, who played Jesse, would be narrating all of the episodes, which I thought was really awesome, because he got gypped out of being a part of that franchise when they killed him off in the first movie. And yes, they killed him off. So I also learned while I was there that there was a long list of people that they had lined up to do interviews. Tyrese, along with my boss, picture car captain David Martyr, stunt directors like Mick Rogers and Terry Leonard, who worked on several of the movies, including Too Fast, Too Furious. I met him and I worked with him for a while. A good guy. Like I said, I told many stories, including the story of the chase vehicle almost falling into the canal in Miami. And while they did ask some questions, much of my interview consisted of telling stories pertaining to the cars, the actors' interest in the cars, the things that was going good, things that was going back, that kind of stuff. And it just kind of flowed. Some of those stories I've told 100 times to viewers or in audiences, whatever. But the hardest question was, how did you react to the loss of Paul Walker? That question was really difficult. I'm not going to lie, I got a little misty-eyed on that one. It was very difficult. I'm sure it was for everybody else. Fortunately, they chose not to show that in the final edit, so just know that they did ask about Paul Walker, and I did give an answer, and so did other people. But at the end of the interview, they asked me about the effect it has had in the car hobby, and I mentioned my association with several great replica builders and collectors like Gabriel Tremblay, as well as Daryl and the Just Driven crew, along with movie car collectors like the folks at Chrome Cars in Germany, Frank Galligu from Movie Cars Central in France, and they were excited to learn about that. But they only had time to fly out to Gabriel's shop and take video of the actual screen-used cars. And while I was there at the studio, I shared with them my personal photo collection. This collection includes pictures that no one has ever seen before, until I started using them in my videos, and you guys have only seen a fraction of what I actually have. So the producer of the Icons Unearthed series asked me if I would just leave the book there and loan them the pictures so they could be scanned and used in the production of this series. And I thought about it for a minute. What happens if they lose it? What happens if the vendor who's scanning it loses it? I was very scared. I actually was very, very scared, as I don't have any copies of these pictures, but I figured that they'd be careful, and I took an inventory of all the photos, and they promised me they were going to take good care of it, and they did. They were good to their word. About 3 weeks later, the picture book was returned to me by a courier, and nothing was missing, and everything was in perfect condition, so that was great. It was great for them. It was an honor for me. I also offered up my behind-the-scenes footage from the Picture Car Warehouse back in Miami when we were working on production of Too Fast, Too Furious, and I was delighted to see the finished, edited episodes of this series. There was a lot of my pictures in there. There was a lot of my footage in there. There's some footage from Gabriel's place, was fantastic. But I heard nothing about the documentary again after that until December, when the producer told me that they used a lot of my interview over several episodes, along with my photos and my footage, which, like I just said, I found that in the episodes as I started watching them. They were dropping them once per week. I was very happy that I was at least useful. And when I saw the first episode, I was actually quite shocked that I got so much screen time. But I was more excited that they used many of my pictures and a lot of my footage. That's all I really cared about. I hate being on camera, believe it or not. But the fact that they used my pictures and the footage, it was fantastic. And over the next few episodes, they continued to use images and footage. But the coolest thing for me was seeing my name in the credits at the end of each episode, next to some really big names, which is a big honor. So I'm very grateful for that. And I had high hopes for seeing the episodes. I was also very excited that the camera crew went down to Florida to film Gabriel's collection of screen used cars. We tried to get them over to Germany to go see Chrome Cars, but it wasn't in the car. They didn't have the budget or the time. They were excited to get access to actual screen used movie cars. I offered up replica cars, but they didn't seem very interested in that. So here we are at the end of it. 6 episodes have now been released. I've watched them all, and I've learned something from every episode. But my favorite part has to be listening to the truth bombs being dropped by people who have worked on these movies and have kept their mouth closed for, 10, 15, 20 years. Several people actually said on the record that the scripts were, what were the words they used? Unrealistic, ridiculous, or they just didn't make sense. And many expressed their confusion as to why they were killing off characters only to bring them back in another movie, which made no sense to anybody. It smacked of 1970s soap operas, which I've been saying for years. And the people they interviewed had to dance around the Paul Walker situation. Like, where is he? Why hasn't Universal shared Brian O'Connor's final disposition? Is he alive in the series, or what are they going to do? What's his destiny? The untold truth is that Universal has to keep dangling the final disposition of Brian O'Connor character until Universal has milked every dollar from this franchise that they can. And I don't blame them. That's what they're supposed to do. But frankly, I think Universal has missed a big opportunity to tell the story their way. This is something that they could have produced themselves, but I think it's better for us that an outside company did it, because the people who were being interviewed could speak more freely if they're not working under the umbrella of Universal, because they are all afraid of losing their job, of course. They also got into the argument between Vin Diesel and The Rock. Essentially, the allegations we've been reading online levied against Vin Diesel for his poor work ethic apparently caused the rift, and as a result, The Rock has said he will never work with Vin Diesel again, and so that explains it. We've already heard that in the media, but a lot of these people fessed up, yes, that's what was going on. And honestly, I think some people would much rather have The Rock than Vin Diesel. Count me among them. But ultimately, it was a good series. It was informative, it's candid, and we get to hear stories that might not have been shared had Universal produced this series in-house. So this is what I really liked about the whole series. How can you watch it? That depends on where you live. If you have any of these streaming services in this graphic, you can watch there through subscription or a trial period. Or you can also go to YouTube to watch the first episode, or you can go to vicetv.com and select a free pass to see 30 minutes of any episode for a period of time. And then you can go back and watch another 30 minutes and all that kind of stuff. So it'll take a little bit of time, but you'll get all through it. I'm not sure if people in Europe can view the show. You might need a VPN to do so, but I promise it's worth watching and worth the effort to get access. So hopefully they're going to release it on YouTube at some point. And when that happens, I'll do something on Instagram to let you know when that happens. So that's going to do it for me today, everybody. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you next week. Thanks very much.